Yeah.
And it's like somebody's stopping.
Oh.
Something's going on.
Let's go here.
Somebody's stopping, so we're pulling into the driveway to get off the road.
Yeah.
That's Mike Barrera up there.
Wow, spanking new driveway.
Huh?
Spanking new driveway.
Yeah, the baby or your the grandchild. Are we good? What happened? Somebody got a mechanical?
Yeah, mechanical. Yeah. Chain out. Chaining. We can.
But that's James. Hey,
So what happened?
he needs to find a mechanic. That's 2 weeks in a row.
There's a history that I'll explain later. On this ride, Paul and I left Northampton. We rolled into the Woodlands. We picked up Team RR. We actually went to Crust Pizza. We went down Fishcreek. This ride went east once we got to Honia there on 2854. Then we went into Highland Hollow there. Lots of climbing. We filmed the entire stretch until we got to the lake. I think you would love the clips that we got for you. There was a lot of action in the group, and it was really good. All of this other part is off camera. We rode with the group through the forest there, went down Bethel, and once we got out of Bethel, we went the gorilla ride the day because they went to Taco Corner. We went to get more kilometers. It was a very pleasant day, mild winds. The wind kind of picked up on the way back, but we cut through past Karen into Magnolia and took 1488 back to the Woodlands. So we got a lot more Ks than we had planned, but it was right in line with what we normally do. I think it was about 6.5 hours, a total ride.
Yeah, you went to Hawaii. You went to
So about a week ago Sunday, James showed up with mechanical. He claims he has a new bike, I guess. The chain fell off. It got sucked into the chain ring between the frame and the inner ring. So we ended up having to leave him on the road. He got it sorted and was able to catch back up because of the lights were just starting. So here it is, almost a week later, he's still having chain drops. At some point when your DIY does not work, get help from somebody who knows how to work on a bike and get it sorted so you can focus on riding your bike. You spend all that money for the stuff. When it's time to ride it, it needs to work. So he's messing around with something. He doesn't know what he's doing. It's obvious. So we pulled over there. He was able to get the chain back. Your chain should not be falling off. This is a road bike. You're not off-road bouncing around. You know, there's no reason for you. You don't even need a chain catcher on a road bike. If it's adjusted properly, it should stay in position. It's just rare when you drop a chain that's under load and a tough angle. Yeah, sometimes that can happen. But when it's adjusted properly, that should not be the norm. So he's dropping chains every ride. You know, but some of these guys come to the rides that have very poor social skills. They see you all the time. They don't greet you. They don't talk. But then when they have mechanicals, they want you to help. You're not going to get any assistance from me. I'm here to ride my bike, not work on your bike. You know what I'm talking about. Every group has them. The ones that show up with their noses in the air.
Yeah, I can tell, man. It's just.
So we're talking about Paul's chain here. Paul got a new chain. Once we get our chain to 0.5 wear, what I call wear, people say stretch. The pins wear. We replace them. That way we don't have to worry about them wearing out the cassettes or the chain rings. And they just shift better. We got our new kit from Souke Sports. Souke has been really good to the channel. You can see it says Souke and the VH logo on there. I will put the link in the description of this video for those of you. A lot of people on the ride asked about how they could get a copy. It's out on the Souke custom site. I'm planning on putting a video together of how to use their custom. They're one of the few vendors that would allow you to customize just one jersey. You know, imagine buying a jersey at the normal price that you created yourself. So I will introduce their custom site for those of you who want to buy a custom jersey where you don't have to buy any minimum. You can just buy one. If you buy bigger batches, they tell you on the site that they give you discounts, but I have a discount code for just the single purchases as well in the link that you will use, and also you can use Veloharmony there and you will get a discount. They were willing to give the same discount for the custom that they do with the standard stuff to people who are members or subscribers to the channel. The code is Veloharmony, but if you use the link, you don't need the code. You get a 15% discount. I put the jersey also on our website.
Oh, okay.
Paul's asking me if everything's okay, and I was throwing away trash. That's why I stopped at a trash can to throw away my wrapper. You see how the pockets are black and the bottom of the jersey is the same color? I love that, what they came up with.
Jerry!
That's Jerry on the left. As we hit Fishcreek, the open road. That driver's blowing because these guys were spread all over that intersection on both sides of the lane. And he was turning in there. But, you know.
Good morning, man.
This is Jerry Lutner here. Jerry's heading out. I think he's going to ask Paul what we're doing today. Paul said, I'm just following. The route was posted on the group me, and I clicked on it. The route that Darren put together. And so I studied the route. This is something that Paul and I have done many times, so I know the route really well. And that's the reason we decided to join them, because they're going further out before they venture towards Taco Corner on this road. They're doing the exact kind of riding that Paul and I, the route that Paul and I like to follow. I like to hit Taco Corner on the way back, not going out. So our kit was a hit. When we showed up, the guys were like, wow, this is nice. I like the way Souke did it. We're going to be getting another copy in a short while. The same copy that you have access to on their site. This was our springtime version of the copy. So it's a slightly different kind of orange than our standard jersey will be. They're both beautifully made. The jersey that you have access to on the site is going to be made with the YKK zipper. I think that zipper just works better. It has a locking mechanism. The teeth are bigger. They're easier to work with. They're easier to navigate. So, you know, the lady that I work with decided that, yeah, we need to go that route. So it has a security pocket that is vertical and zippered. So just all the features that we like in our jerseys, Souke was willing to put in the jersey. It's in the Max line, that's what they call it. So when you go to their site, you will see the semi-custom, and under the Max line, you will see our design. And you can also make your own design. I think that is neat. That's a nice setup. A lot of the other vendors want you to buy 15, 20 jerseys before you can get a custom order. Even when Rafa came up with theirs, you had to buy 5. And at their prices, that's just a bit of an outlet if you don't have 5 people. It is a very breathable jersey. I'm up front pulling. I didn't know Paul was back here. I'm following Peter. Peter is one of the guys that rides with the WCC guys, and he's on our ride here. I had asked him, I said, are you going to go all the way with us? He said, oh yeah, I'm going wherever you guys are going. So we had a good, in a short while you were here, John, who we refer to as Chapoussin, I explained to him during the warm-up why we call him Chapoussin, you know, because we believe that he rides like that rider. And Mo had mentioned the guy's name one time when he was filming. I went and looked the rider up, and he's just a hard-working rider, a very strong rider for the AG2R Citroën La Mondiale team. So we mentioned that to him. He said somebody had thought that his last name was Chapoussin. So whoever watched this video, when we mentioned Chapoussin, they thought John Malbrecht's name was Chapoussin. so he's gonna look up the rider. I'm up there in front of Mike Barrera. And we're moving at a good clip here. This is Abby up here sporting the Rafa flyweight jersey. It says 8 Celsius. It's a warm 8 Celsius. Not muggy or anything, but it's just, it feels like 8 Celsius. So we ended up just wearing, I don't have knee warmers on or anything. I just have a light base layer from the Pactimo base layer that I made a video for, because it handles varying temperatures very well. Actually, on this ride, I'm wearing the an Asos 2-3 base layer, but I'm wearing the Pactimo Endurance, what they call that 12-hour bib shorts, and they really work well. I'm putting it through the paces before I do the review video for them. So Peter pulls off the front. I'm on the front right now. I think Peter's gonna go in front of Paul. So if you're riding in a group and you want to get some work in, you need to do what you saw Peter do. When you get off the front, try to get back in the line up front. You know, look for an opening, and you know, like Paul let him in and he thanked Paul. You know, if you want to stay near the front, so you can have your nose in the wind frequently. I'm sitting at the front, keeping the effort similar to what Peter was doing. This is a slight grade. It will show up in a bit. It says 0, but it's not 0. We're going up. And I'm keeping it around 22, 23, thereabouts. I'm not looking at speed. I'm just keeping the effort the same. 2.5 to 3 out of 5. I'm using RPE here. The power meter numbers on the screen are for you guys. I don't look at that stuff when I'm riding. I just ride my bike. I pay attention to the sensations in my legs, because that's really what matters. If you have dead legs, you're not going to be producing any power. And I'm doing what he was doing as far as keeping the effort close to it, so the group is consistent, keeping it smooth. Every time I pull and I pull off, Mike Barrera always says, like, good work, or that's the way we like it. Thanks for keeping it steady. He always says that kind of stuff. He always says something. So my goal was to maybe pull for about a minute or so. I just kind of gauge it. I don't really look at the clock or anything. Just get up there and keep things rolling. Just keeping it steady, staying smooth. So if you're gonna ride with the group, if you're feeling good enough, help the group along. Don't just sit in. You don't get strong by sitting in a big group. Your effort will be low if you just sit in. You gotta do some work if you want to improve. So I'm done pulling, I pull off. I flick my elbow before I pull off, and Mike is taking over. I'm gonna keep drifting back, but I keep my eye on the wheels coming up. You don't necessarily need to turn your head. I'm just looking at the wheels coming up. I'm looking for a gap. When I look down, I'm actually looking to the right too. I'm looking down at the mirror. I'm glancing. Paul says get in, so I just roll behind Peter. The light changed. I've already downshifted. I'm in the gear I need when that light turns green. Go down a few cogs, you know. I'll probably stand a bit, if I remember correctly, yeah. Get the gear rolling. It's Abby there. I didn't know Weingrab was that close. I never got a chance to chat with him. That's Mike in a white jersey behind Abby. Well, Abby behaved himself today. He didn't do any of that foolishness that he normally does. So that's good. I think he's catching on. This is not a show. We're here to work out. You feeling good? Get up there, put your nose in the wind, and pull the group. This is not Hollywood. It's a bike ride. So what's different about the route here is when we get to the overpass, once we go over it, we're going to turn right and we're going to go east. That's to the right. We're headed north right now. So east will take us to a road called Sapp Road, old 105 to Sapp Road. Then we get on 105, then we'll go through Highland Hollow. It registered 14% today when we climbed it, but depending on how you climb it or where you're lined up, I've seen as much as 15% in the neighborhood. Just a steep little bump. It's a long ride. They had factored they were going to do about 84 miles. So that's about 135 kilometers. So you have to pace yourself, you know, depending on what kind of riding you've been doing. So if the group is going to do that kind of a ride, you sit in more, you take shorter poles or none at all, and you just, depending on how you feel or what you've been doing, so that you can finish the ride strongly. It's not the time to start putting on a show and doing things that you cannot sustain. In a few kilometers, we get to the overpass, and I will show you one of those moves that are not sustainable or really not necessary when you think about it. That's a nice little bump. That's Ridge Lake Shores. And you see somebody went hard at Ridge Lake Shores. I mean, I stood up to keep the gear rolling, but in a little bit, I'm gonna basically stop pedaling right here. So they turned off the power. So they should have just stayed a little more tempered, and then after you crest that thing, you just keep pedaling, so we don't have to do what you just saw. So by keeping the pace steady and within your range, you can maintain a steadier effort than all these things that you have to stop pedaling from.
What's the race called? Huh? What is the race called? It's called Stop 200.
So that's just the dynamics of being in a group. You see I'm soft pedaling and I stop there. I mean, you know, you just stay in the proper gear to where when you need to wind it up, you can. I stand here. I don't downshift. They slowed down too much, that's why I stopped. But I knew I'm on the edge of the shoulder and that Paulie Longa was on my left, so I could do that. Peter's moved over there to blow his nose. You know, when you're riding like that and the air is cold but cool. Your nasal passages kind of drain. So whenever you do that, make sure you're not blowing your nose to where the wind can carry it onto the people following you or near you. So you gotta give yourself some room. You can either move right or left depending on what you choose to do. Just gonna let them know. The road goes up again. You will see the watts go up because what I was talking about earlier, for some reason, I mean, we're trying to keep the pace similar. So what you do is if you go harder on the uphill, then shift up and keep pedaling. I don't know why they're stopping. So it's like we're sitting here coasting, you know, because right now we're going downhill and they're not pedaling. You know, it's like you need to pedal. One time we rode with Mo and he said, don't coast on the downhill, you know, shift up and keep pedaling. That's why you don't need to, you should kill yourself on the uphill to where you got nothing left. So that way you just keep your legs moving. I think it's better to keep your legs moving than all this starting and stopping. Even when the legs are hurting, you just keep them moving. You flush out the lactic acid. I mean, you have to drop the effort somehow, depending on where you are. But just keep the legs turning is good for them. So once again, the road's going up. The watts will go up. So when you're used to riding steadily, and then you ride in a groove where all these yo-yos, a lot of times you want to stay near the front or be the one pulling, because then you don't have to deal with the yo-yo effect as much. You can just keep it steady. They're slowing down, and it's like, that's not the place to slow down. This is still a little bump before we get to the overpass. So you can see how the speeds will get steady, then it will speed up, and then like, I don't think that's very efficient. So now you're gonna see James will come on the right to do something that's not sustainable. You know, I'm not sure what that was about, but then, you know, hours later in the ride, he was struggling. So you need to pace yourself. That does not impress anyone, because unless you're running, you're gonna attack and open a gap and sustain it. There's no point to that. We're climbing at about 18 miles an hour, 18 to almost 19, thereabout. That's just the speed for the situation, but the effort is like 400 watts, let's say. So if you go and do 600 watts and then you slow down to 0 after we get over the overpass, because we're turning right. So what was that move for? That was not a good expenditure of energy, and you will pay the price. It adds up. The human body has a finite amount of energy. So in about 45 minutes, I guess, I don't know if it's off camera, we go through the forest. Yeah, I think that's off camera. They add up. There's a lot of hills on this route. So they add up to where we get to a 7% climb in the forest. And next time we'll film that section.
How you doing? Hey,
and the attrition just had built up to where all these little wasted efforts they paid for them.
That's going to be a hard 84.
Mo calls it
Yep.
hitting the Chinese wall. He told us a story about that. Some riders came to his group one time early in the ride. They're attacking climbs and not knowing who they're riding with. Once the hours kick in, they got to a part of the ride where he said they didn't just hit the wall. They hit the Chinese wall, meaning there was no coming back from that. So avoid the urge to show off. Whatever effort you're doing, make sure you can recover from it. Make sure you've done it before. Don't go to a group ride and try to impress people with that, because if it's too much for you, you may end up riding alone. Your goal should be, I want to finish this ride strongly. And in order to do that, you have to be really stingy with your efforts. Go hard when it's necessary. So Paul and I talk about it a lot. When we're riding with a group that is very fast, We save our energy for the points in the ride where the group is really working hard, like hills, or they come out of corners aggressively, depending on what your group does. Work hard when they're working hard. There's no point in working hard when the group is warming up. The ride hasn't started yet. So keep that in mind. Save your energy for times when it's necessary, because cycling is all about timing. Not just cycling, all sports. If you ever watch soccer, it's all about timing and position. So don't waste your energy when no one else is working hard, because then that stuff that you wasted you may need when they do start to work hard. Because nobody comes to a group ride and say, man, let me go see how, let me go get dropped. That's not the goal. Use the group to get you in better condition, get you faster, pick up group riding skills and so forth. So go there and save your efforts and do the hard intervals when the group is going hard. When they're resting, you rest. You take a drink, eat a gel, put a gel down, eat something, a bar, whatever. That's what everyone does. You see where I am? I'm in front of Mike. There is no gap between myself and the rider in front of me. I'm being real stingy because on this ride, Peter just kept pulling and keeping the pace up, which was fine. And I just stayed with him. I just stayed on his wheel and we went. You will see that when we get on Sapp Road. I thought that was really good for this group because there's usually a lot of lulls after a turn. Everybody slows down, sits up. Peter didn't let that happen. He just kept riding. And that brings to mind, I think the rider's name is Matthias. I hope I got it right. But there's a young guy in his 20s that used to ride with more than them a lot. We were on a ride a few winters back, and I'm sitting on this guy's wheel, and all of a sudden we're off the front, and that was not my plan on Fishcreek. So then I told him, I said, well, we've left the group. He was not aware that he had left the group, so he turned around, he's like, oh. And so we waited. Then when Moore came back, I mentioned to Moore, he's just hammering, and Moore said, yeah, that's how they ride. And I got it. But basically what Moore was saying was that when they come to Mo's group, that's the kind of riding they do. And so even though it was winter, he's just used to riding like bat out of hell. And he just put his head on. He was doing what he was used to doing. So knowing that he could sustain it, he was just riding at a pace that he was accustomed to. And I believe it was the same ride on the way back. We ended up doing like a nice little rotating pace line. And this young man really liked it. And he was just thanking us because the rotating pace line is hard to maintain as riders keep speeding up. But he really enjoyed that because it works on your skill. You know, if you're going to be competing, at some point you're going to get in a breakaway where you'll need to be rotating fast pace, short pulls, that kind of stuff. So I think he really enjoyed that. But the point I was trying to make was you need to know what kind of riding you're accustomed to doing before you go out and try to put on a show in a group. Whatever it is you're doing, make sure you can recover from it, you're used to it, and you're not going into the red to do it. At least not early in the ride. That way you get to accomplish finishing your ride strong. You don't want to limp home. You want to get home on a bike ride feeling like you could do a little more. I mean, you know, it won't happen all the time, but you don't want to be digging deep on every ride. We're going to be turning in a few kilometers. There is a road called Old 105. It's on the left. And then will take us to Old Sapp Road. We use these busy highways to get us to these more scenic roads. This terrain here in this direction, we've got the wind behind us and from the right. There's a sign for that there's an intersection coming. That's the road. I'm going to start looking in my mirror. I'm studying the traffic patterns. That's really what I'm doing right now. And I just told them car back. Now it's clear. I move over and let them know there's nothing back there. That's the benefit of having that mirror. I didn't need to turn around. That kept my eye on the rider in front of me, because all I did was glance. It's like glancing in a rearview mirror in your car. You can still see what's happening up front. We turn onto Old 105 Road. We're in Conroe, Texas. We're just a few kilometers from downtown.
Did Jerry go somewhere?
So Paul's asking about Jerry, because Jerry usually hangs back, and I think he's doing his KOM. Yeah, he told Abby he's doing his KOM. What Jerry does is he'll let the group go and then do a Strava KOM and catch back up to the group. You'll see him in a few miles. He'll come back. So he does the KOM from behind because he's going so fast that he'll bring him back to the group. Depending on the wind condition or whatever, they go after KOMs. I don't Strava like that. I just load this ride for people that follow the channel. But I don't get into all the other stuff. They're always sending stuff. Oh, you're a local legend on this route. Something new that started. That didn't mean much to me. I just like getting out and riding my bike. So James is up there with another rider following him, and they're leading the group, but they don't really know the route. I'm not aware that they don't know the route, because they're up front. They're gonna go straight, and we need a turn. And when I noticed it, I said right turn. But they've already passed the intersections. They didn't have to come back. They're going straight. That will take you to 105. We're turning here on Sapp Road. So we turn into like a hill. See, 6-7%. I didn't know it was that steep, but we've been out here enough to where I knew to be in the proper gear. So now they got to turn around. We're going to be going out. Peter doesn't let up. He's up there because that's why I was talking about my tires and so forth. Peter's just used to riding like that. So with the WCC guys, they don't let up much. You know, when they're stopping for a stop. They don't just be stopping for a hiatus. So I'm riding up to Peter's wheel. I figure I'm here. Let me get in the draft. The rest of the people are going to have to ride up to catch up to us. There's a car up. We always call car up because these roads are narrow. And sometimes riders get a little careless and they're on the opposite side of the road. You know, so we alert them. So it's always good to call that out when you're in the group. Let them know there's a car coming up so everybody keeps their eye on the cars. You know, keep their eyes focused so you never know. So I'm sitting on Peter's wheel and we're riding. Darren's here catching a lot of wind. He really needs to get up there. Now he's moving up there. This is where you can save energy. You need to get in the draft. You need to stay close. Don't be hanging out in the middle or, you know, because you're not pulling the group and you're just riding like you're solo, and that adds up in your energy expenditure. I'm riding a 5317. I can tell you about my cadence and the speed. I mean a 5317, and between that and a 5319. The cock set that I have on this wheel that I'm riding has a 27, I believe. So it skips in twos until it gets to the 17. It's an 11 speed. So I'm spinning at 105 there to do 37s. I'm probably in the 19, 110 high cadence. I'm in 19. Saving my legs, knowing that we're going to Highland Hollow and beyond, and there will be a lot of climbs on this route. We're going into the forest. We're going to do 149 in Bethel. That's the way you have to think. What's to come? Don't try to impress early in the ride and end up going into your reserves. So I keep my gears as low as possible for the current speed. You have to practice if you're ambitious and you want to ride with fast groups. You have to practice being able to spin, 90 plus comfortably. And that's on the conservative side. I don't spin above 100 unless I'm accelerating, and you don't need to hold that too long. We're going to turn right. Peter's asking me. I tell him we're turning right. Then I also tell him in a few kilometers we're going to be turning left into Highland Hollow. We'll get on the shoulder here. This is 105. We are in Conroe, Texas. Headed east. Look at that sun. Just the glare off the actual. The day warmed up very quickly. It still says 8 Celsius, but it feels warmer than that. It feels closer to like 12 C, but it's nice and dry. It's not humid and sticky. You can see Peter did not let up. And this is similar to how the WCC guys ride. So he's used to riding like this. So you have to prepare yourself for the kind of riding you want to do. And because I'm sitting on his wheel, for the most part, I'm still in zone 2, maybe the top of zone 2, just sitting in. I'm getting a drink right now. I made myself drink. We had a discussion with Mo on a cold day. He said, yeah, you really got to force yourself. He's right. If you don't drink enough, your pee is yellow, because if you ride hard and you don't drink enough, your pee is pickled. The phrase is pickled with lactic acid. So you need to drink enough fluids to where they help move those toxins around. You need water when you exert yourself for hours. It's easier to drink in warmer temperatures than it is when it's cold, but you do have to make yourself take a drink. So every 15 minutes or so, I just take a little drink. You don't want to be behind to where you have to guzzle stuff. So staying near the front and staying on Peter's wheel here, I don't have to deal with any hesitations and slow down. It's just nice and steady here. I'm probably riding a 5316 at this point. Was somewhat downhill. He pulled to the right to ask me. Once again, I told him the light's coming up. At Highland Hollow, we're going to be turning left. You will see me signal. The guy behind me is Darren. He's the one that put the route out there for this ride. You can go on Garmin Connect and make a route, or whatever. And he put the link on the group me. And so I clicked on it and I looked at his route in detail. We're turning left. There's a lot of traffic, so we're gonna wait. And sometimes if it doesn't let us get in the left lane, there's a street on the other side, we take that, but the light doesn't change for that very often. There are more cars coming. Peter's up ahead, so he can go, but I can't. There's another car. I think there's one more. Yeah. Now it's okay. Now we can go. There were actually 2. So you have to take your time. Don't take chances. There's no point to it. This is Highland Hollow. There's a 15% climb. I was telling John up there, that's the guy we call Shampoo Sapp, John Mulberry, to get his wheel out of that lane. I told him to come up. So we're gonna sneak across because this light won't pick us up. There is no car behind us. So the left turn is not gonna pick us up. So once the traffic clears, we go ahead and go. I tell them, I say, I don't think it's gonna pick us up. See, Darren's taking a drink. You always want to do that. You want to get a little swig whenever you can. When I turned here, my tire touched my shoe cover and it lifted a little bit. So you see me reach down, I've just flipped it back because it's really easy to navigate it. I flipped it back over the front of the shoe. It came up a bit. This is Highland Hollow. As soon as you turn, you see it says, let's see what we got, 0. It's gonna go to like 3 or 4%. It just hits you. So it's a long ride. When you're in this kind of situation, just stay steady, stay within yourself. Even if people are riding up ahead of you, it's not the finish line. Unless it's very easy for you, don't dig deep. Just ride. Because I know there's more to come. And you will see. You see the guy on the right there in black. He's all black. I will point him out again. Right there. The guy in the black. He's standing up now. He's a little behind in his fitness. You know, we hadn't seen him on these rides. Not that you have to do these rides to be fit, but we can tell when you're riding in a group how you're going. So now he's sitting a little bit here. Now he's going to work somewhat hard here, and I'm sure the ride is hard for him. I don't know if he's done this distance enough at this point in his training. But we can tell in a few kilometers after we get out of here, his legs go on empty on Longmire, which is not as steep as this, and you'll see that. So I'm pointing that out. It's not about this guy. When you're riding, pay attention to how you're feeling. We're going to turn right here. This is where it kicks up. Look at the grade above where the Cyclist is on the left here. See, it's going up 7. It's going to go to 14. I stand up because I can use my upper body. See, this guy I was talking about, he's struggling. He started out kind of early back there hard. I don't think he's familiar with this. This is kick. And so we're not really hammering, we're just riding. So I tell them left turn, because some of them didn't know. Mike is up there, Barrera, he's on the right. So throughout the ride, you're gonna feel great, then you're gonna not feel good or whatever. You know, that's like, it changes sometimes, you know, depending on how you're going, how your form is. So when you're not feeling super, super great, take a break, sit in. You know, temper it down a little bit. It will kick in later. So you got to really just kind of piece out your efforts and be stingy with how you ride. The guy was talking about, I don't know his name. He wears a bike land outfit in one of the local shops in the area. He's back behind us. He's struggling. So, you know, he'll get a chance to recover here somewhat. But then we get on Longmire and we come to another long climb, which is nowhere near as steep. And his legs are like, you know what, I need a break. And when that happens, yeah, it's okay. You back off because in a few moments, you might feel better. And Jerry ended up staying with him. That's Jerry on the left. He was doing his KOM. He's called back up to us. Jerry ended up staying with him when that happens. So we're going through these stop signs as a group, guys and girls, because there's nothing coming. There's no cars. It's quiet. Yeah. If there's another road user, you do have to stop. You know, if there were another car and we had continued going through as a group, that would be okay, because if we got there first, that's fine. But I don't want you to see on the film that we're rolling these stop signs and that's okay. No. We're checking. There's nothing coming. Nobody's up. There's nobody. It's like you're in the forest and the tree falls. Nobody hears it if nobody's in the forest. So there's nothing there, fine. But when there's another car, you need to stop. You have a rep to protect. We are required to follow all the laws. And it's the same thing in your car. You're out in the middle of nowhere. Nobody's at the sign. Yeah, you can slow down, check, and roll. That's okay. So there's a car over there. We're going to be turning right here. He's going straight. This will take us to Longmire. So the point I'm trying to make is I'm explaining that when you're riding by yourself or with a group and you're in a very quiet area, nothing's happening. There's James going again, wasting energy. Nothing's happening. You can check and roll those signs. There's nothing wrong with that. You slow down. I mean, I've even talked to a police officer who said, yeah, if you slow down and make it look like at least you're ready to stop, it's not a problem. But they're worried about people who are moving at 40K and just blast a four-way intersection. You know, you don't want to do that. So we stop here. This is Longmire Road. They recently paved it in the last year or so, last few years. It used to be asphalt two-way. This is so much nicer. It's like a boulevard now with a center turn lane. And this is the road that guy has still not recovered yet because we have not let up. Even though the terrain was downhill after the climb, we're still kind of riding. This is the part of the ride where it's almost like a hiatus. Get a drink, get a bar, get a gel in your system. You know, we've been riding, for Paul and I, almost 2 hours. These guys, 45 minutes. So after about 30 minutes or so, you got to throw something in there. Throw a log on the fire on a long day like this. So right here, it's like a hiatus, and you will see in a little bit the pace will just pick up. So just because things slow down, don't think you got the whole day. Use that short opportunity, get a drink, whatever, you know, but be ready, be alert, because anytime the pace can change. So that's Jerry on the right. So Jerry's gonna hang back with that guy when he starts to struggle, just, you know, to be with him, and ends up bringing him back to the group, because we catch a long red light at 8:30, Highway 830 and MP Clark Road. So when you're doing a ride with a group, get an idea that, you know, it's going to take a little less time than when you're by yourself. So if the ride is 3 or 4 hours and you normally only ride 2 hours, yeah, that's very doable. But then be smart in that ride. Sit in more, because you don't have the high volume of hours in your legs yet. See, the pace has just picked up. Nobody said anything. You just feel it. And this is the climb. It's long. Let's see what it says. 2% now. I think it gets to around 3% or so. But it's very lengthy. Yeah, 3%. So everything adds up. So based on what kind of effort you've been doing on a climb like this, you can't hide on the climb. You gotta pedal. There is no major drafting effect per se. So they're pouring it on at the front. His legs are on empty right here. It's had enough. They're had enough. So I go around, I see the gap, close it. Jerry stays with him. Paul's on my wheel. So the two of them stay back there. Jerry knows the course. He can ride back up to us. And there'll be some slowdown. We'll hit a stop sign, several stop signs, and then a red light. So he'll get a chance to come back. But I'm pointing that out so that when you ride, just because you feel great one moment doesn't mean you need to empty the tank. You gotta save it for the entire ride. So he went very hard on those climbs back there, and his legs had not recovered. And depending on his gearing and his fitness, all of that plays a factor. See how the watts fluctuate. Is a 3-second average, so you're running 350, then it drops to 100 and something because it levels off and you're in the draft, all of that. Yeah, that's just the power meter talking. Your legs feel like, okay, how many times have we done 350 watts? For how long have we done 350, 400 watts? That's what matters in your ability to adapt and tolerate the repeated efforts. Is the repeats that get you. So when you're riding in an area that's very lumpy with a lot of hills, you need to pay attention to how you're feeling at every moment, because sometimes you got to let people gap you. It's okay. You got to keep your power down so that you can last to finish. That's the reason I say we train, we don't ride. You prepare your body for what's to come. So right here, I'm just soft pedaling pretty much. We're going somewhat downhill. Yeah, -3. We're going downhill. There's a four-way stop sign intersection up there. We'll go across it and go to a road called Little Egypt Road. So all these roads are very quiet, but there's no reason to be careless. You have to watch, you have to check. So the person at the front did that. And then they're pouring it on, so I want to stay close. This is Little Egypt Road. If you go straight here, it dead ends. It's the only way out of here. When you're in a group and the leaders go through an intersection, you still have to be diligent and pay attention to what's happening, because they may have gone through okay, and when you get there, situations change. Don't hesitate to stop if you have to, because some other road user enters the intersection or has the right of way. Just because it's a group does not mean that they see all of you, especially here where there are gaps, because people are cornering and different things. All that's important. Don't get careless because you're in a group. Ride the same, similarly like when you're solo. Check all the intersections because situations change. And then you alert the other riders that we need to stop, even though those guys went through. They'll wait for you. You see my cadence up? This road continues to be lumpy until we get to 8:30. And I'm stressing my aerobic system because it recovers a lot faster than my muscular system would if I overtaxed them. That's what they mean by saving your legs. So when you're training, your training needs to prepare you for the ability to handle the stresses to your aerobic and your muscular systems. So those who had not saved anything in that neighborhood and earlier, right here can make you struggle. Because this road seems to be level, but it's not. It's lumpy, we're going up. It has a few areas where it'll dip down to 0 and then it'll just boom, 3%. And you don't see it, you feel it. So right here is like ninja grade. Looks flat, but it feels like you're working. See, 2%, 3%. Then it goes back to 2. You have roads in the air like that, it looks flat, and you're just like, why am I working so hard? Just find the proper gear for your fitness. You know, we got a bunch of that in our area. You feel like, man, I should be going faster. This road is flat. No, not really. So I always display grade on my cyclo computer. So Peter pulls off the front, he's drifting back. So he was the one up there pouring it on. So we got the wind and we've got this grade, this ninja grade. So it's still early in the year. You don't need to be in top form or anything. Depending on how you train during the winter, you should be sharpening stuff based on what events you may have coming on. So even though I don't do much racing now, I still keep the same pattern to where it's a lot easier to maintain my fitness than to let it lapse. You know, it will lapse if, you know, life happens, stuff happens, and you have to let it lapse. But if you can, it's better to keep it maintained. So at this point here, right here, I got really warm. And so I'm going to take off my arm warmers and put them in my middle pocket. This is Highway 830.
Yeah.
Paul's taking a gel here. He hands me the camera. So at this point, everybody's back together. This light is a very long light, so anybody who was struggling got a chance to get back to the pace line. Paul puts his trash in the garbage can on the side of the jersey. That's another reason for your kit to be skin tight. You can slip stuff under it. So I speed it up here because it was a long light. Do a time lapse.
I should have done 1 and 3 like you did. 2 out of 3.
All those things make a difference.
Yeah.
So I've taken off my arm warmers and I put them back and I feel better.
Yep.
My base layer is a little warmer than I would have liked, but it's working. So by taking off the arm warmers, it balanced everything off. I feel great. Some driver greeting us, pulling a boat. There's a lake down there. It looks like he's heading from the lake. So we've got the wind in our face for the most part, but the early part of this road is mostly downhill for probably, I would say, 2 kilometers, maybe 1.5 miles, and then it kicks up before we go in another subdivision down there. You can see we're doing about 30 miles an hour. I'm not even pedaling. Coming the other way, this is a nice climb. So these are the kind of roads I will find, and then you go down one side, do a U-turn, come back, work, you know, when you're doing repeats. I'm not sure what that was. Looked like a bunch of popcorn or something. I don't think it was popcorn. I thought it looked like foam. Something fell out of a vehicle. Good opportunity here to maybe take another drink or whatever you need to. You got to pay attention to what your mind is telling you. You're thinking about water, take a drink. You're thinking about food, grab a gel. Get something in there. Top off your tanks. So whenever you're on the ride, you can tell who is having trouble at the highest efforts. And you've already seen the guy in all black struggle on Longmire, a little bit in that neighborhood and so forth and so on. And the same thing kind of repeats itself. And so what that tells me is, yeah, his fitness is not there to where he can handle those efforts per se. But the thing is that I think that he expended a lot of energy at other points of the ride. So when you're not quite there, when the riders are really pouring it on and you're lagging, don't take a pull, don't waste energy, sit close, stay in the draft, take care of yourself, drink, eat, whatever, so that you can save your effort. You don't have to keep up with them when they're putting out those peak efforts, but at least stay in touch, if you know what I mean. Because we've all been there. So the road is starting to go up now. You look at the grade up there on the left in that circle above the Cyclist. It's going up. He's staying on the right. So two things he's doing wrong. He's in the wind. He should have been on Mike's wheel a while ago. So he wasted a lot of energy just because the road was going down. And he's overgeared, in my opinion. And you see, I'm not pedaling faster. He's pedaling slower. He may be a little overgeared. It's hard to tell. You know, it doesn't look too bad. But we're just passing because he's just not firing. And what he's doing is not bad in that the group comes by, and by the time the hill is over, you at the last rider, you can just slip back in. That's actually pretty smart. But what I was pointing out was that he was in the wind before we got to the hill. So the little energy he could have used back there, it got sucked up while he was sitting in the wind, you know. So keep that in mind. All adds up. We'll make a right turn here, and this is ninja grade per se. You see where it says 1%? I don't know what it gets to, but this entire stretch, you just feel like you're not really rolling. Yeah, it says 2. That makes sense now. So you just, all I'm doing is keeping the same rhythm that I was doing back there on that last little climb. I'm in a gear that I can fan to 100 if I need to, or 75 if I need to, so I don't need to shift. staying close to Mike's wheel while looking for the patina on the road and avoiding the little ripples, little cracks. You can see I'm fanning the gear, triple digits, and now I soft pedal, stop. So you always want to be in a gear that keeps your souplesse. So you're not laboring. So it's just a beautiful sunny day. It says 14 Celsius. It probably feels like it now. But it stayed dry, so it wasn't humid. We turned left here. There was a car coming in the distance. We let everybody know, just in case somebody cuts that corner. We're heading towards a subdivision that will take us towards the FM 1097, which we use to go back to Montgomery County, Texas. So you can see what I've talked about. You rarely need to brake in the pack. You use the wind, soft pedal, let friction kind of slow you down. You got to learn to do that. So you're not really braking all the time. You can tap them a little bit to kind of slow you down from time to time, but most of the time I just control my speed by soft pedaling. Right here where I'm really spinning this gear, so somebody is going fast up there, and I just use the same gear and spin it up. So when you train, you have to teach your body and your neuromuscular system how to pedal really fast. It all starts with comfort on the bike. If your saddle's not comfortable, you're not going to enjoy spinning. And saddle setback is very important along with the height. In a little bit, we'll descend and then exit this neighborhood to get on 1097. So the ebb and flow of riding with other riders. I'm dropping like a rock. All 85 kilos that I'm carrying. There's a car coming, so I'm gonna say car up and move back over. I shift up and stand. Somebody said right turn, I told them left turn. Right turn is a dead end. There is a boathouse in about probably a few, maybe 100 yards from where we are now. We're going to turn right, and the boathouse is on the left. And then when we get to the corner, I'm going to ask whether we're stopping or not. Because periodically, when we come through here, that is a stopping point. I think it's a Shell gas station. They're on the left. See where the gas pumps are. So I go across the road to ask them if we're stopping, and we're not. We're just going to keep going. So it was really cool. They didn't stop until they got back to Taco Corner. There's Jerry. So Abby wants to know where we're going to stop for a health break to take a pee. And so we decided that we'd do it in the forest. in the woods. He's too busy talking. He's on the other side of the road, and that car is turning. He told him to watch out. So the road's all clear. We're headed west on 1097.
I'm good, man. I'm good.
That's Mike asking Paul how he's doing. Mike Berrera, our legend from California. He's now a Texan. Mike said he always liked Rafa, and when he would search online, the channel would show up with the best reviews, I guess, and that's how he found Veloharmony, through the Rafa reviews. So he was a Rafa fan long before he found Veloharmony. But he likes our reviews, and so, you know, doing research to know what to get, because these manufacturers are tricky. They get garments that overlap a lot. So I don't know what you did this weekend, but this is part of what we did on Saturday. Get out there, get your K's in, and keep the doctors fired.